Hello everybody, what is up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Crimes Untold, or if you're watching on YouTube, Liz Austin x Crimes Untold. I know, it's so fancy. So, today we're going to be talking about another set of unidentifieds that have been identified in 2023. So, the first one on our list we're going to be talking about is the Golden Valley John Doe of 2021. A more recent one, but alas, another one that has been identified. So in the area that is off of Fewey Road in Agua Fria Drive in Golden Valley, a citizen found a set of human remains back in January of 2021. Investigators would arrive at the scene and weren't able to determine this man's identity. Also, the medical examiner wouldn't be able to identify how this man died. So UP77898 is the case number that's referenced to the Golden Valley John Doe and was given to him in the NamUs directory. As soon as his body was recovered, his case went cold. There was nothing. That was until February of 2023. So the Mohave County Sheriff's Office, specifically the Special Investigations Unit, collaborated with Othram to basically in hopes of determining who this man was. So with the help of DNA sequencing, they were able to determine that this man was 56-year-old Brian Crain, who was reported missing in September of 2020 by a family member. He has not been heard from for a few weeks, which is why the family member was prompted to file a missing persons report. So at this time, there's not a lot of information about the death of Brian Crain. So if you or anyone you know has any information in regards to his death, please contact the Mohave County Sheriff's Office, the Detective Division at 928-753-0753, extension 4288. Again, if you or anyone you know has any information in regards to the death of Brian Crain, please contact the Mohave County Sheriff's Office, the Detective Division at 928-753-0753, extension 4288. So next on our list is quite a doozy because it's two does that were identified together. So next we're going to be talking about the McAlester Doe couple, or Brian Burr and Rachel Burr. In 2019, the bodies of the man and the woman nicknamed the McAlester Doe couple of 1995 were exhumed. So they were exhumed for DNA testing. But there wouldn't be a substantial break in this case until 2021 with the help of genetic genealogy. This couple was first found in a wooded area, specifically by a guardrail underneath a tree that was by Crowder Point off of Highway 69 on April 9th, 1995. It was an unassuming citizen who was just riding his quad and having fun and then stumbled upon the bodies of the man and the woman. So this area was believed to be where the couple was dragged, and they believe the couple was dragged approximately 40 feet into the woods. And this area is about 50 yards west of where the Pacific Railway track is. And this is also near Lake Eufaula, or the Lake Eufaula public camping site, which is possibly where this couple was staying. So they had died via gunshot wounds. It's believed they were killed with a .38 caliber gun, particularly a Ruger or Smith & Wesson. The John Doe was shot once in the chest, and the Jane Doe was shot twice in the chest. The John Doe had 3 tattoos. One was an eyeball with a teardrop on his right forearm. The second one was a cross on his shoulder or his arm. And the third one was a letter R, which was on the lateral part of his left forearm, his upper left forearm. He was fully clothed. He had a black belt, a t-shirt, a leather jacket, green Levi denims, which are a 31-34 size. He had Generation 2 checkered black and white briefs, a yellow metal golden ring with 14 karat and TW engraved on the inside, a watch with a brown band on his left wrist, and a ring on his right finger, his left hand. Also found on him was an empty pack of cigarettes, a lighter, and 19 cents, and a piece of paper that they couldn't make out what was on it. And he also had blonde hair on his head and blonde facial hair. He is thought to have been between the size of 5'6" and 5'9" in height, and approximately 175 to 195 pounds or 185 pounds. I found 2 different sets of how much they thought he weighed, and that he was between the ages of 18 to 25. Now, the Jane Doe had long hair that was either blonde or light brown. She was approximately about 130 to 140 in weight. She was 5'4" to 5'6" in height, and between the ages of 18 to 25. She also was found with clothes on her person. What I mean by that is on her body. So she had the following on her: blue panties, white bra, a Lassen sportswear pullover shirt with 3/4 sleeves that were red in color, and it was a size small. She had black denim Great Landing trading pants that were a size 10, white socks, 2 rings on her left hand, 1 yellow metal and the other one had a white stone, so an engagement ring and possibly her wedding ring. So the estimated time of death is thought to be about the 18th of March of 1995, so approximately a few weeks prior to the discovery. Also, something odd about this time is that the watch that the male wore was an hour behind Oklahoma time, which would be Central Standard Time, making them think that they possibly were hitchhikers. Also, these two were thought to be married because of the matching rings they had on their hands. They would lay unidentified until September 2022, but were publicly identified in April of 2023. I know, don't get pissy. Privately were identified with the family first and then publicly identified. Oh yeah, so the couple was buried in Dorsey Cemetery just north of Lake McAlester. In December of 2018, there was a petition to exhume the bodies in hope of extracting DNA to potentially identify them. This was a year after the case was reopened by the Cold Case Investigative Unit. After the retrievable samples of DNA, after they retrieved the samples of DNA, they then uploaded them onto the database, but no matches came of them yet. The way notification works is that the family finds out first, and typically the family will have time to kind of understand what has happened, and then the public will be notified of the identification process, which is exactly what happened to the McAlester Doe couple. But it wouldn't be without the help of the couple's daughter and the investigators that never stopped hoping to find out what happened to them and who they were. So Dallas Burr actually went on TikTok and uploaded videos about wanting to find her parents. And I give her so many props for doing this. I don't think I would ever be able to do that if I had a missing family member. But her first video is speaking of her wanting to meet them, just to meet them. Dallas was a baby when her parents went missing. She knew their names were Brian and Rachel. Obviously, her last name is Burr, so that is her last name as well. She also has a brother as well. And Dallas ended up figuring out the truth when she sent her DNA to the OSBI, which is the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. So her DNA was a parent-child match to that of the McAlester Doe couple. Dallas and her brother thought that their parents were alive, but in fact they were deceased this whole time. It is known that she spoke about wanting to know them, but forgave them for leaving her. This is prior to her finding out that they were deceased. It is also known that after learning about the fate of her parents, she was angry, which is normal in a grief process, and she was mourning their death prior to the public announcement. So at this time, this case isn't solved, but the identities of the McAlester couple has been returned to them. If you or anyone you know has any information about Brian and Rachel Burr, please contact the FBI, specifically the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program at 703-632-4166, and also you can contact Richard Sexton, who is the Undersheriff at the Pittsburg County Sheriff's Office, at 918-423-5858. And any phone number I have said so far in this video, I will have linked in my description box as well. Next, we're going to be discussing Tricia Newsom, who was 18 years old at the time when she disappeared in 1974. So she was last seen in Monticello, New York, when she ran away from a boarding school in hopes of going to Maine. It's thought that she would try and make it to Maine by hitchhiking, but no one ever found out if she made it or not. So unbeknownst to her family, she would be found a year later, but she wouldn't be publicly identified until this year. So on August 16th of 1975 in East Haven, Connecticut, the remains of a woman were found in a ditch behind a store on a frontage road. This body was nude but wrapped in a tarp. She was bound and gagged with what is believed to be an antennae wire, and she was bound at the neck, waist, and knees. Her cause of death is strangulation. She had brown hair, hazel eyes, and it's believed that she had a nose job at one point, and she had some orthodontia work done. So clearly, someone who took care of themselves or was forced to take care of themselves. But even with this information, nothing helped in identifying her. Not much was found at the scene other than some paint drops that were on the tarp. The investigators started to believe that maybe her killer was involved with painting. There was a theory that her killer was a local to the area and that the suspect they had in her death also was a suspect in a similar death that occurred in Maine, but they weren't able to charge him with her murder at the time. Police do believe that she was dumped at the scene that the actual murder happened at, but I mean, they can't really fully say that yes, that's what happened. So police do believe, so the case went cold. That would be until 2022, when in June, police went to go find her burial site so they could exhume her remains for DNA. So due to the now defunct State Street Cemetery where she was buried, and my golly, the records of this cemetery were in such poor condition that all the police had was a drawn picture of the layout of the cemetery in Hamden, Connecticut. That's all they had. So basically what they had to do was they had to use ground penetrating radar system to find the East Haven Jane Doe due to her being buried in a metal casket. That's the only way they were able to find her. But it wouldn't be until July 2nd when they found her casket. When they first started trying to find her, they ended up exhuming a different casket, and that was a totally different person. I believe it took them 3 tries to find her. Retrieving a DNA sample from her body, they then were able to create a sequence and upload to different genealogy databases for further analysis. So Marianne Newsom Collette matched to the DNA, of which she had uploaded her DNA to GEDmatch, which is a popular genealogy website. So after 47 years, the East Haven Jane Doe received her identity back. This case is still currently being looked into at this time. So that, my friends, was the next set of John or Jane Doe cases that have been identified in 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next one.